Is the part 2 banner coming sooner than we expected? Hey guys, Marsingin here, bringing you another Dragon Ball Z Dokkan battle video. And so yesterday I made a video going over when we would expect part 2 of this celebration to begin. And that was based completely around the evidence of the previous Tanabata celebrations that we've gotten up until this point. Because of course we know that with the roadmap that they showed with the sync showing off the anniversary in February, then the event that would of course become known as the Global Dokkan campaign, they mentioned that the celebration that once was referred to as the Tanabata, which was in July on JB, would be moved into this time slot, and of course has been announced and now begun as the Transcendent Dokkan campaign. So essentially this event, for all intents and purposes, as far as we understood, was still the Tanabata celebration, and therefore the same format and everything else that we'd seen from previous Tanabata celebrations. It was a reasonable estimation to assume that those things would still apply, right? So when I made the video yesterday talking about when will part 2 of the celebration start, I looked back at the previous Tanabata celebrations that we've had, and you could very clearly see that the part 2 banner dropped pretty much exactly to the day 3 weeks after the part 1 banner, and that had been the same for the last like 3 or 4 years in a row. So it made sense to assume that the part 2 banner this time around would drop 3 weeks after the part 1 banner. However, some people commented some very interesting points on that video, pointing out some stuff that I'd either forgotten or just was not aware of, that we're going to go over in this video, because the part 2 banner may actually start earlier than we expected. In fact, potentially an entire week earlier, due to a few different factors that we can see in the game and just in general. So shout out to Rick, one of the big data miners. We mentioned him and some of his posts in a lot of these videos. He has an absolute knack for predicting these kind of things. And this post that I've got up on screen is actually one that was posted, as you can see, way before the Tanabata replacement celebration began, basically saying, I think the celebration will start on August the 29th. Japan time, which is basically the 28th PST, which funnily enough is exactly when the celebration did start. So unlike GDC, I think that by September they're talking about when most of the celebration will take place. This was when they announced like the memorial stones would be coming in an event in September, right? Now there's a couple of things here. Whilst this was about the start of the Transcendent Dokkan campaign, there's a couple of things in here actually that do very much lend some sort of evidence or credence to the release of the part 2 banner, right? So one big thing that we look at all the time is like the Elder Kai banner. So it says, while it's true the Elder Kai banner dates aren't as accurate as before, that usually applies to the ones in the middle of the month. The ones that correspond to Dokkan Fest are almost always accurate, and they're never off by more than 1 to 2 days. So 1 to 2 days. In 2025, most of the sales have ended 1 to 3 days before the next banner. The only exception was the sale before the 10th anniversary, which ended when the 10-day countdown started. So sales and the Elder Kai banner are something that we do look at on a fairly regular basis. And then we've got stuff about the memorial stones. This obviously is the very start. We also have the fan meetup thing that's going on over this weekend, Saturday the 6th of September. Something could be shown here, and if they were to show like the art of the part 2 unit or something, for example, it would be kind of crazy for them to show them so far in advance, especially when we have very little in the way of content announced or scheduled for the next week or so. We have new Red Zone stages coming out on Wednesday, and other than that we have no information about anything else actually releasing up until this point, right? Now the other big thing is, this is way back when we had the original data download at the start of the Transcendent Dokkan campaign. I'm somebody that plays the game with the music off most of the time, or I'm recording and not listening to the game audio even though it's being recorded. So you may have noticed, of course, or should have noticed if you play with the sound on, that the Blizzard song, which is like the theme of the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, has been playing on the home screen from the beginning of the celebration, and it is scheduled to end on the 11th in terms of PST, the morning of the 12th, which is of course 2 weeks after the banner comes out. Now, why would that theme be ending if the part 2 banner isn't going to be coming out with a completely different theme, because this is one of the big things. At first I overlooked it when thinking about, I wasn't thinking about the date, it was when we were thinking about the theme of who the character could be. And obviously some people were saying, well, if the Blizzard home screen song is going to end, then surely that means that the part 2 unit isn't going to be related to Dragon Ball Super Broly, because why would they have the Dragon Ball Super Broly theme music end right when part 2 is going to start? Now, obviously the other thing as well is that we have seen in celebrations before, it's not very common, but it does happen sometimes, where part 2 starts and the banner doesn't come out straight away. So this could be an indication of part 2 starting this next coming Friday, which is the 12th. It'll be late Thursday for the US, right? The 11th PST. However, there are a couple of other things that we can look at as well. So the big one, remember what we talked about from Rick's post in terms of predicting when certain things are going to start. If we take a look at the actual celebration info for the Transcendent Dokkan campaign part 1, and we scroll down and take a look at the sales, you can see that the sales end on the 11th. So the Kai banner also ends on the 11th. So in fact, they both end on the same day. So the current set of sales that we have in the game and the Elder Kai banner both end on the 11th. This is the afternoon UK time, so early morning PST, which would make sense if then the celebration, the next part of the celebration, part 2, the next banner and therefore new sales, is going to come out later that evening on the same day PST, early the next morning for me UK time, right? Because it's usually a few hours out. For example, the part 1 banner came out at like 2 a.m. UK time, 2 or 3, so it was evening PST, so all of the advertisements said 28th of August PST, and then it was the morning of the 29th for me. So you can see here the dates on this Dokkan info are listed in British Standard Time, so this will be early in the morning on Thursday, and then obviously slightly earlier for the Kai banner. That's when the sales and the Kai banner will end on the 11th, and therefore it makes sense that with the release of the new, whatever the new home screen music is going to be, maybe there isn't even a custom one, it's just the fact they're taking away the Blizzard one. All of that is happening at the same time. So the DBS Broly theme tune from the main menu, the sales and the Kai banner are all ending on the 11th. And of course, considering that that is exactly 2 weeks after the start of the celebration, the 11th going into the 12th, like for my time zone, it does in fact seem very likely that the banner is going to come out next week, or at least part 2 is going to start. But it leads me to think that the banner will come out, because we know that Dokkan likes to have sales active as much as possible, because obviously the whole point of the sales is they're there to encourage people to buy stones. It doesn't make a lot of sense, and I don't think we've really ever seen it before, where sometimes we'll go like a day or two where no sales are active in the game. But if these sales are ending on the 11th, my previous prediction when we talked about in the video yesterday with the whole 3 weeks thing, they're not going to go all the way up until the 19th or the 18th, I guess PST it would be. They're not going to go all the way up to the 18th with no sales if the sales are ending on the 11th. I don't think we've ever had, at least that I can remember, a period of time in the game where there were no sales active for an entire week, right? So this now makes it seem very likely that the part 2 banner is actually going to come out on Friday, this coming Friday, Friday the 12th, or like I say, it'll be late evening Thursday the 11th if you're on PST time. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Which of these things do you think are the most relevant in terms of the evidence? I think the fact that the sales and the Kai banner both ending on the 11th is probably the biggest thing, because the home screen theme, I mean, it could just be ending for any reason, I guess, I don't know, but that kind of adds into it as well. The previous Tanabata celebrations, which is what I based everything off of yesterday, whilst I do, like, I still feel like it makes sense that that's why I did it that way, but you got to remember that this year Dokkan has been doing a lot of things differently, and so with this campaign being changed and moved into a different time slot, it's not out of the question that they could have decided that essentially they want the campaign to be slightly shorter, and therefore the second part is coming out 2 weeks after part 1 started rather than 3, which is what we're used to in the past. So let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. I did mention a couple of options yesterday for the Part 2 LR. I'll probably speculate about that a bit more in the future as we get a little bit closer, but I'm still sticking with my thoughts on either Broly, if we are keeping the Broly theme, like the Wrathful Broly. The Bardock and Goku still seems like it could be a possibility, but with the theme ending and it potentially shifting over to something else, I've seen a lot of people talking about the potential of Superhero, because of course that is the next Dragon Ball Super movie after Broly, and that means that the celebration still kind of has that movies and then like superhero slash super bosses kind of theme. So Superhero could be related to the Part 2 LR. We've already seen some interesting speculations about things like standalone Orange Piccolo, reversible exchange Gohan and Piccolo. We can have the reversible exchange Gammas. There's a couple of things that we could potentially see for the celebration being related to Superhero. So do let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Do you think we are going to be seeing the Part 2 banner within this next week? Do you think it will be Superhero? Do you think it will be Broly? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. So that is going to be it for the video, guys. This has been the Masked Ningen. Smash that like button, subscribe to the channel if you are new. Check out the links down below, and I will see you all again soon. Have a good one.